Hello everyone, and welcome to Tommy's Reptiles. Here is a delivery from Custom Cages. This is an enclosure for my juvenile Quince Monitor. Let's go over a quick recap of the assembly for this custom cage. Here's the corner joint assembly. We're just going to slap it in one of the cross beams. Then you simply just tighten it up with one of the Allen keys. Then you do the same exact thing and connect it to the side beam. Once you complete the first two corners, then you can slide in the bottom panels. Here is the cross support beam. Once the bottom panels are inserted, then you can cap it off with the other two corner joint assemblies. Now it's time to add the vertical beams to the corner joint assemblies. Once the vertical beams are complete, then you can start adding the back panels and the side panels. Now it's time to start adding the top frame of this enclosure. This also requires 4 corner joint assemblies. Now let's add the screen lid with this cross beam and the other screen lid. And then on to the 2 final corner joint assemblies. Here is the top front cross beam. Let's check out the doors. They just pop right into the tracks. And of course we have to add a lock because monitor lizards are great at escaping. The last part of the initial assembly is adding the corner caps. Okay, here it is on the top shelf of my reptile room. Now it's time to get to work. Let's go ahead and pop those doors right back off. We have some work to do. Just gonna give those bottom panels a nice wipe down before I start siliconing the bottom. So I'm just gonna take this silicone and squirt it around the bottom edges of this enclosure to keep the substrate in and to keep the moisture in. Now let's do the other half of the enclosure. Once the silicone cured, I took the enclosure off the shelf and put it on my reptile room couch. It's time to toss a background in there, right across the entire back. Here's the background. It's a fake rock wall. Looks pretty cool. I'm gonna screw that jumbled edge right into the enclosure. First, I'm just gonna drill pilot holes, and then I'm gonna pop a screw in there and tighten it up with a nut on the back. And I'm gonna repeat this across the entire background until it's nice and secure. And while we have the drill out, I'm going to drill a hole in the side of the enclosure for this air line, which goes to the filter. Perfect fit! Now I'm going to secure the rest of the background with the nuts on the back. We got the enclosure back up on the shelf. Now let's add the substrate barrier. I'm going to use these things for now, and if I don't like them, I'll replace them. But I think they look kind of cool. They look like little black bricks. I actually think that looks pretty good. Here's the pad for the aquarium. I'm going to add this big rock to keep the background wedged against the back of the enclosure. Here's the fish tank. I spray painted the background a nice light blue color. Here's what we have so far. Let's keep working. I want to add these awesome climbs all over the water feature so when Walter climbs out of the substrate, the wood might knock some of it off so it doesn't get the water all dirty. And it's a perfect spot for him to bask and get a little bit of UVB. Now let's add the foliage. In the future, I might go fully bioactive and add some real plants, but for now, I'm going to stick with the fake plants just until Walter gets comfortable in his new enclosure. Now let's add a little bit of cocoa fiber. I'm going to give it a nice spray down for the inhabitants that will be living in this cocoa fiber and other substrate. Now I'm going to add a little colony of springtails and isopods to make sure this enclosure stays nice and clean. I'm going with a sponge filter this time to see if my Quince Monitor doesn't destroy it. He's pretty good at destroying filters, but I think this one might be a good idea. Let's turn on that sponge filter. I'm going with cypress mulch for the rest of the substrate so it keeps the enclosure nice and humid. I'm adding some flat rocks to this enclosure because it's like a dinner plate. You put the food on there, the reptile eats it off without getting substrate all in its mouth. Let's hook up the lighting. Heat light and UVB. I'm really liking how it turned out so far. Let's put the doors back on this bad boy. I want to thank Custom Cages again for making this awesome enclosure for my monitor lizard. Before we release my monitor lizard into his new home, we have to make sure the lock is ready to go. Here's the moment of truth. Here you go, Walter. Let's let Walter the Quince Monitor explore his brand new enclosure from Custom Cages. I really want to thank Custom Cages again for sponsoring this enclosure build. It's been such a fun experience creating this amazing habitat for Walter, my Quince Monitor. They made me an enclosure specifically for my Quince Monitor, and it fits perfectly on my top shelf in my reptile room, and I'm super excited, and it seems like Walter is too. You can tell he's super curious, his tongue's flicking, he's getting all these new scents. Oh look, he's already going in his cave, which is awesome. I feel so much better knowing that Walter has more room to explore and that this will be his home for at least the next couple years. Let's see if Walter is ready for his first meal in his new home. He seems pretty hungry to me. Here you go, buddy. Good grab. Now I'm going to leave you guys with some footage of Walter the Quince Monitor exploring his new habitat. If you're interested in getting a custom cage for your animal, go to www.customcages.com. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching Tommy's Reptiles.